Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive.
Huh.
Huge thanks to Iseni for this one.
Oh, yeah.
We're going deep into the Nag Hammadi Library,
Mm-hmm.
a collection of ancient texts that offer a totally different perspective on early Christianity.
Right.
Seriously, Iseni, your suggestion is a gold mine.
Yeah.
And to everyone watching, if you want to see more deep dives like this, hit that subscribe button, like the video, and share with your friends.
Definitely.
Your support helps us grow and bring these fascinating topics to a wider audience.
Absolutely. So what's fascinating about the Nag Hammadi Library is that it wasn't just a dusty stack of old scrolls.
Okay.
It's 13 codices.
Mm-hmm.
Think ancient books containing over 50 texts.
Wow.
Mostly written in Coptic.
Okay.
Discovered in Egypt back in 1945.
So cool.
They give us a peek into Gnostic Christianity, a set of beliefs that ran parallel to early Christianity, but had its own unique spin on things.
So it's like we're stepping into an alternate history of Christianity.
Exactly. And the story of their discovery is an adventure in itself. Think hidden caves, accidental finds, and maybe even a little black market intrigue.
Oh.
Makes you wonder what other secrets are still out there waiting to be unearthed.
All right, I'm already hooked. But before we get lost in ancient mysteries, let's set the stage.
Okay.
What exactly makes Gnostic Christianity so different from the Christianity we know today?
Well, one of the most fundamental differences lies in their understanding of God.
Okay.
While traditional Christianity focuses on a personal God involved in our lives, Gnostics believed in a transcendent, unknowable God, way beyond our grasp. Imagine a vast cosmic ocean of pure being.
Whoa.
That's their God, the source of everything, but completely beyond our comprehension.
Okay, so it's less about a God who's watching over us and more about this ultimate abstract source of all creation.
Precisely. And that sets the stage for how they viewed everything else. Take the material world, for example.
Yeah.
We might appreciate its beauty, but the Gnostics saw it as flawed, a sort of cosmic shadow play compared to the true spiritual realm.
So for them, this physical reality wasn't the main event.
Yeah.
It was more like a cosmic detour.
You could say that. And this idea of a flawed material world is directly linked to the actions of a key figure in Gnostic thought.
Okay.
Sophia.
Sophia, she's the embodiment of divine wisdom, right? But the sources mention a fall from grace.
Right.
What happened there?
Well, the way Sophia's story is told varies across the texts, but there's this recurring theme of her making a mistake, an error in judgment that leads to the creation of this imperfect material world.
Interesting.
That's like a cosmic oops.
Hold on, a divine being making a mistake. That's not something you hear every day.
It's certainly a different perspective, and it's precisely this mistake that brings Yaldabaoth into the picture,
Okay.
the not-so-benevolent creator god we mentioned earlier.
Okay, Yaldabaoth, he's often described as monstrous.
Right.
But I'm guessing there's more to it than that?
Sure.
Why did the Gnostics view him so negatively?
Here's where it gets really interesting. See, they didn't just see Yaldabaoth as a bad guy. They saw him as a symbol of ignorance, a force that keeps humanity trapped in this flawed material world. Think of it like this. He's the architect of a cosmic illusion, and we're all caught up in it.
So escaping this illusion becomes the ultimate goal.
Exactly. And that's where the concept of gnosis comes in.
Gnosis.
Yeah. It's not just about knowledge in the ordinary sense.
Okay.
It's about a direct experiential knowing of your true spiritual nature. It's about waking up to the reality beyond this shadow play.
So it's like achieving a state of enlightenment where you break free from the limitations of this material world.
Precisely. But for the Gnostics, achieving gnosis wasn't a walk in the park.
Oh.
They believed in a counterfeit spirit, a deceptive force that actively tries to keep humanity in the dark, preventing us from reaching our full potential.
So not only is the world flawed, but there's also a cosmic trickster trying to keep us from seeing the truth.
Right.
That's rough.
It definitely adds a layer of complexity,
Yeah.
and this trickster force is often associated with Yaldabaoth himself. He's not just the architect of this flawed reality. He's the warden trying to keep us locked in this cosmic prison of ignorance.
Okay, so the stakes are pretty high in the Gnostic worldview. We've got a flawed world, a cosmic trickster, and humanity searching for a way out. It's a story full of drama and intrigue, but how did we even get access to this story?
Yeah.
These texts were lost for centuries, weren't they?
That's right. They were hidden away in a cave near Nag Hammadi, Egypt, until their accidental discovery in 1945.
Right.
And piecing them back together was a monumental task.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine a puzzle with no picture on the box,
Yeah.
missing pieces, and written in a language few people understand.
I've heard about the meticulous reconstruction process using papyrus fiber patterns like fingerprints to reassemble the fragments. That's some serious detective work.
Absolutely. And dating these texts was another challenge. However, one text, The Concept of Our Great Power, mentions a group called Enomoian heretics who were prominent in the late 350s CE. That gave scholars a starting point for placing at least that text and potentially others within a historical context.
So it's like a breadcrumb trail leading us back through time, trying to understand who wrote these texts and why.
Exactly. And as we delve further, we discover that these codices weren't just a random assortment of texts.
Okay.
They were carefully curated collections, probably belonging to different Gnostic communities.
Interesting.
We see this in the duplicate texts, the varying cover styles, and even the way they were organized.
Well, like piecing together not just the texts themselves, but the communities that created them, their beliefs and their practices.
Right.
It's a journey of discovery on multiple levels.
Precisely. And that journey is what makes exploring the Nag Hammadi Library so captivating.
Yeah.
It's a chance to step outside the familiar narratives and encounter a completely different perspective on early Christianity.
So we've got this incredible collection of texts, a glimpse into an alternate history of Christianity. But what exactly do these texts tell us? What stories, myths, and ideas did the Gnostics share?
That's what we'll explore next.
Okay.
We'll dive into the texts themselves, uncover their hidden meanings, and see what these ancient voices can teach us about ourselves, the universe, and the search for truth. Picking up where we left off, let's explore one of the most striking differences between Gnostic and traditional Christianity.
Okay.
The idea of resurrection in the Gospel of Truth. Resurrection isn't about a physical body coming back to life. It's about a transformation into something new and imperishable.
Okay.
A state of being that transcends the limitations of this material world.
So it's less about what happens to our physical bodies and more about a fundamental shift in consciousness.
Exactly. It's about awakening to our true spiritual nature and achieving a state of wholeness that the Gnostics called the pleroma.
Pleroma, that sounds intriguing.
Yeah.
It's not just a word they threw around, right?
Right.
What does it actually mean?
It's a concept that lies at the heart of Gnostic thought.
Okay.
Think of it as the ultimate state of being, a realm of pure divine fullness. It's where everything is complete, perfect, and in harmony. It's the source from which we all emanate and the destination we ultimately seek to return to.
So it's like a cosmic homecoming, a return to this source of pure being.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And the Gospel of Truth suggests that this transformation can begin even while we're still in our physical bodies. It's not something that happens only after death, but a process of awakening that's available to us right now.
Okay, so we've got this flawed material world, the pleroma as the ultimate goal, and gnosis as the path to get there. But what about Jesus? Where does he fit into all of this?
That's a question that sparked a lot of debate even among different Gnostic groups.
Yeah.
Some saw Jesus as a divine being sent to awaken humanity to its true nature. Others viewed him more as a guide, a teacher pointing the way to gnosis.
So there wasn't a single unified Gnostic view of Jesus, but a spectrum of interpretations.
Exactly, and that speaks to the diversity of Gnostic thought.
Yeah.
It wasn't a rigid system of beliefs, but a collection of schools and communities, each with its own unique flavor.
Speaking of different flavors, one text that seems to stand out in terms of its systematic approach is the Tripartite Tractate.
Right.
What can you tell us about it?
The Tripartite Tractate is like a Gnostic blueprint of reality. It dives deep into how the divine realm emanates the emergence of the logos, often associated with Jesus in Gnostic thought, and the structure of the universe as they understood it.
Okay.
It's a fascinating attempt to create a cosmic map.
Yeah.
A way of making sense of the vastness and complexity of existence.
And part of that cosmic map includes those intricate angelic hierarchies we mentioned earlier, right?
That's right.
Different orders of angels responsible for everything from punishment to healing.
That's right. And it wasn't just about categorizing for the sake of it.
Right.
These hierarchies reveal how some Gnostics viewed the universe.
Okay.
A complex system of order and structure, even within the divine realm. They were trying to understand the forces at play, the different levels of being, and how everything connected.
So for them, even the divine realm had its own bureaucracy, its own chain of command.
You could see it that way.
Yeah.
And it reflects their desire to understand the intricate workings of the universe to find meaning and order within the apparent chaos.
But we've talked about God, Sophia Yaldabaoth, the flawed material world, gnosis resurrection, and even angelic hierarchies. There's a lot to wrap our heads around. But I'm curious, if the Gnostics were so focused on escaping this flawed reality, how did that impact their lives here and now?
That's a great question. And unfortunately, the texts don't offer a detailed guidebook on Gnostic living.
Oh.
But we can piece together some clues.
What kind of clues?
Well, their focus on gnosis suggests they emphasize practices that cultivated inner awareness. Think meditation, contemplation, and perhaps rituals designed to connect with the divine realm.
So less about outward actions and more about cultivating a deep inner knowing.
Precisely. And some texts hint at ascetic practices, a deliberate rejection of worldly pleasures and attachments to purify the soul and prepare it for the journey back to the source. They saw the material world as a distraction, a trap that kept you from realizing your true nature.
So it was about stripping away the superfluous, simplifying your life to focus on what truly matters.
That's one way to interpret it. But it's important to remember that there was no single Gnostic way of life.
Right.
Different communities probably had their own customs, practices, and interpretations.
Makes sense. So we've got a framework, some core concepts, and a sense of how these ideas might have shaped their lives. But can we dive into some specific texts? I'm ready for some stories.
Absolutely. Let's start with the hypostasis of the archons.
Okay.
Which offers a fascinating glimpse into the Gnostic worldview. It tells the story of the archons, these powerful rulers of the material world who are consumed by lust for Eve.
Okay, that's not your typical Sunday school story.
It's definitely a different take, and it highlights the Gnostic view of the material world as a place of defilement, a realm where even divine beings can be corrupted. It reinforces the idea that true purity and goodness lie beyond this physical reality.
It's a reminder of the importance of staying true to your spiritual path, even amidst temptations and distractions.
Exactly. And while the hypostasis of the archons paints a rather bleak picture, other texts offer moments of profound beauty and emotion.
Okay.
Take the Apocryphon of James, for example.
Okay.
It features a scene where Jesus, knowing he's about to depart, speaks to his disciples, leaving them with a final message of love and a mission to continue his work.
So even within this framework of escaping the material world, there's still a strong emphasis on love and compassion for others.
Precisely. Gnostic thought wasn't just about individual liberation.
Okay.
It was about recognizing the divine spark in everyone and working together to help each other awaken to that truth.
That's a really beautiful aspect of their worldview.
Yeah.
It's not just about escaping, it's about supporting each other on the journey.
And that sense of community, of shared purpose, is a recurring theme in many of the texts.
Yeah.
They recognize that the path to gnosis wasn't a solitary one. It was a journey best undertaken together.
It makes sense, right?
Yeah.
We all need support and guidance along the way.
Absolutely. And the Nag Hammadi Library, with its diverse collection of voices and perspectives, reminds us that the search for truth is an ongoing conversation, a collaborative effort that spans generations.
Okay, we've covered some heavy themes. A flawed world, cosmic deception, the yearning for liberation. But I'm also curious about the more imaginative, symbolic aspects of Gnostic thought.
Okay.
They use some really powerful imagery like the phoenix.
The phoenix is a great example. It shows up on the origin of the world. And while it's often associated with resurrection in general, the Gnostics took it a step further. For them, the phoenix represented not just a one-time resurrection, but a continuous cycle of death and rebirth, both spiritually and physically.
So it's about constantly shedding old layers rising from the ashes of our past selves as we move towards gnosis.
Exactly. It's a beautiful metaphor for the ongoing process of transformation and growth that's central to the Gnostic worldview. They recognize that the path to enlightenment isn't a straight line, it's a spiral, a journey of continuous evolution and awakening.
And they weren't afraid to challenge traditional interpretations, even when it came to powerful figures like Sophia. That image of her giving birth to Yaldabaoth without a consort is still stuck in my mind.
That's from the Apocryphon of John, and it's a really powerful image, isn't it?
Yeah.
It speaks to the Gnostic exploration of the divine feminine,
Okay.
presenting Sophia's creative power as something independent and autonomous. It's a stark contrast to the more patriarchal narratives that often dominate religious discourse.
It's like they're saying, hey, the feminine principle is just as potent and creative, even if the results aren't always perfect.
Exactly. It challenges us to re-examine our assumptions about the nature of creation, the divine, and the balance of masculine and feminine energies within the cosmos.
And then there's that image of the androgynous being formed from a drop of Sophia's light falling into the water.
Yeah.
That one really resonated with me.
That's from On the Origin of the World as well, and it speaks to the Gnostic concept of primordial unity,
Okay.
before the separation into male and female, before the fragmentation of consciousness that characterizes our current state.
Yeah.
There was this wholeness, this perfect balance, and the androgynous being represents that original state of harmony.
It's like a reminder that at our core, we're all connected beyond the labels and divisions that we often create.
Precisely. It's a beautiful vision of a world where duality is transcended, where we recognize the interconnectedness of all things.
This is also fascinating.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, it's a lot to process.
Yeah.
It's like we've opened a Pandora's box of ideas,
Right?
and I'm still trying to sort through it all.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel that way when you delve into these texts?
Absolutely. That's part of what makes exploring the Nag Hammadi Library so rewarding. It challenges us to think differently, to question our assumptions, and to embrace the complexity and mystery of existence.
So it's not about arriving at definitive answers, but about engaging in an ongoing process of inquiry and discovery.
Exactly. The Nag Hammadi Library isn't a textbook with all the answers neatly laid out.
Yeah.
It's a collection of voices, stories, and myths that invite us to participate in the conversation,
Okay.
to wrestle with these big questions and come to our own understanding.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. It's not about dogma or doctrine, but about opening ourselves up to new ways of seeing and experiencing the world.
Precisely, and that's what makes these texts so relevant even today.
Yeah.
They remind us that there are always different perspectives, alternative ways of understanding ourselves and the universe.
Right.
They challenge us to step outside the familiar, to embrace the unknown, and to embark on our own journeys of spiritual discovery.
It's like those choose-your-own-adventure books. Except this time, the adventure is about exploring the depths of consciousness and the mysteries of the cosmos.
That's a great analogy. And the Nag Hammadi Library offers a wealth of paths to choose from, each one leading to a deeper understanding of ourselves and the universe.
I'm definitely feeling inspired to continue this exploration. But for now, let's shift our focus to some of those lesser-known figures and texts that you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
I'm especially curious about Marsan's and the paraphrase of Shem.
Those are great choices. They offer unique perspectives that challenge some of the common assumptions about Gnosticism.
Okay.
We'll dive into those next and see what new insights they can offer into this fascinating world of ancient wisdom.
All right, we've journeyed deep into Gnostic cosmology, met some truly intriguing figures, and even glimpsed into the lives of those early communities. But as promised, I want to circle back to some of the lesser-known texts and characters you mentioned, the ones that might challenge our assumptions about Gnosticism. Let's start with Marsan's. He's a bit of an enigma, right?
He is... Marsan's pops up in a text named after him, and he's a fascinating figure because he seems to bridge Gnostic ideas with those of the Platonists. Unlike some of the more dualistic Gnostic texts that see the material world as inherently evil, Marsan suggests that even matter has the potential for salvation.
That's a pretty radical departure from the whole escape the matrix vibe we've been exploring.
It is, and it might reflect how Gnostic thought evolved over time, interacting with other philosophical and religious currents. Remember, Gnosticism wasn't a monolithic movement.
Right.
There were different schools, different interpretations, and Marsan gives us a glimpse into that diversity.
So it's like Gnosticism was in conversation with other ideas, adapting and evolving as it spread.
Exactly. And Marsan's is a prime example of that.
Yep.
It challenges us to think beyond those black and white categories and appreciate the nuances within Gnostic thought.
Okay, so we've got Marsan's blending philosophy and Gnosticism. What about the paraphrase of Shem? I'm intrigued by the mention of a hymen of nature. That sounds, well, pretty unique.
It is. This text offers a really interesting take on the biblical flood narrative.
Okay.
But it goes beyond that.
Okay.
It introduces this concept of a hymen of nature,
Okay.
which is essentially a cosmic union that results in the creation of the material world.
Hold on, a cosmic union? Are we talking about a celestial wedding here?
You could see it that way.
Yeah.
The text describes it as a cloud, a coming together of forces that gives birth to the material realm.
Okay.
And within this cloud, there's this force called the astonishment of the unbegotten spirit, representing that divine spark within creation.
Okay, I'm definitely picturing some elaborate cosmic ceremony. But how does the flood fit into all of this?
Well, in the paraphrase of Shem, the flood isn't just a random act of destruction.
Right.
It's seen as a deliberate act by nature to wipe out those who have lost touch with that divine spark. It's like a cosmic reset button, a chance to start fresh.
And Shem and his lineage are the ones chosen to carry that spark forward.
Exactly. They represent the continuation of that astonishment of the unbegotten spirit, the preservation of gnosis in a world that's constantly trying to extinguish it.
That ties back to the Gnostic view of history as cyclical rites. Creation, destruction, and renewal. A constant dance between light and darkness, spirit and matter.
Precisely. And within this dance, humanity plays a crucial role.
Yeah.
We're not just passive observers, we're the carriers of that divine spark tasked with awakening to our true nature and transcending the limitations of this material world.
Speaking of transcending limitations, there's another text I wanted to ask about, the second treatise of the Great Seth. It presents a rather unexpected interpretation of Jesus' crucifixion, doesn't it?
It does. In this text, the crucifixion isn't a tragic event. It's a deliberate act of deception orchestrated by Jesus himself.
Wait, Jesus was playing mind games with, well, everyone. I need to hear more about this.
The text suggests that Jesus' true form was so luminous, so powerful, that the archons, the rulers of this material world, couldn't comprehend it. So he took on a physical body, allowing them to believe they had captured and crucified him. But in reality, his true self ascended back to the divine realm, leaving behind an empty shell.
So it's like a spiritual magic trick, a way of outsmarting the forces of darkness?
Exactly. And this concept of deception wasn't about trickery in a negative sense.
Yep.
It was about using wisdom and understanding to overcome the limitations of this world. It's like a cosmic game of chess where you have to think several moves ahead to achieve your goals.
Okay, that's pretty clever. We've got cosmic weddings, reinterpreted floods. Jesus as a master illusionist. What other surprises does the Nag Hammadi Library have in store?
Well, there's a text called The Apocalypse of Paul that describes Paul's journey through multiple heavens.
Wow.
He encounters angelic beings, receives secret teachings. It's a classic vision of spiritual ascent.
So like an interdimensional road trip with Paul as our cosmic tour guide? Sign me up.
Each heaven in the text represents a different level of spiritual understanding. As Paul ascends, he encounters beings of increasing luminosity, receiving teachings that reveal the true nature of reality.
It sounds like climbing a cosmic ladder, each rung bringing you closer to enlightenment.
Exactly. And this text really emphasizes the importance of direct experience of personal revelation.
Right.
It's not enough to just read about these things.
Right.
You have to actively seek them out, engage in practices that allow you to connect with the divine realm.
So it's about taking that inner journey, not just relying on external sources of knowledge.
Precisely. And the Nag Hammadi Library, with its diverse collection of texts and perspectives, provides a roadmap for that very journey.
Now, one thing that keeps coming up is this Gnostic emphasis on secrecy and esoteric knowledge.
Yeah.
They seem to believe that some truths were only meant for a select few. What's that all about?
That's a key aspect of Gnostic thought.
Okay.
They saw knowledge as something precious, something that had to be protected and only shared with those who were ready to receive it.
Right.
They believed that not everyone was prepared for these teachings. Some might even misuse them.
So it's like they had this cosmic inside scoop, but you had to prove yourself worthy to hear it.
You could see it that way. And this emphasis on secrecy probably contributed to their conflict with early Orthodox Christianity, which aimed for a more universal, accessible faith.
It's like two different approaches to spreading a message. One focused on exclusivity, the other on inclusivity. That clash makes sense.
Exactly. It highlights the diversity and complexity of early Christian thought. There wasn't just one monolithic Christianity. There were multiple interpretations, different paths, and sometimes those paths collided.
Okay, one last question before we wrap up.
Yeah.
All of this is fascinating, but I'm curious, what were those early Gnostic communities actually like? Did they have rituals, gatherings, ways of life that reflected these beliefs?
That's a question that scholars are still trying to piece together.
Yeah.
The texts offer glimpses, but not a complete picture. There are references to Baptists and rituals involving water. For example, in the first apocalypse of James, James receives instructions on how to navigate the challenges of the afterlife, including encountering beings who try to steal souls.
Whoa.
He's given specific formulas to utter, including references to Sophia, who is in the Father, and who is the mother of Agepima.
Okay.
It's a fascinating glimpse into the Gnostic belief system and the importance of having the right knowledge to navigate the spiritual realms.
So it's like they have their own practices and rituals, ways of preparing for the afterlife, and ensuring safe passage to the divine realm.
Exactly. And it points to the importance of community, of shared knowledge and support in their worldview.
Okay.
They weren't just solitary individuals seeking enlightenment, they were groups of people supporting each other on the journey.
Wow, this has been an incredible journey through the Nag Hammadi Library. We've explored some mind-bending concepts, encountered truly unique perspectives, and maybe even challenged a few of our own assumptions along the way. What are some key takeaways that you hope our listeners will walk away with?
First and foremost, I hope they'll remember that history is never a simple story. There are always multiple perspectives, alternative narratives, and voices that challenge the dominant paradigms.
Right.
The Gnostics remind us to question what we think we know, to dig deeper, and to be open to new interpretations.
It's like that saying, history is written by the victors. The Gnostic texts offer a glimpse into a side of early Christianity that's often overlooked.
Exactly. And secondly, I hope listeners will appreciate the depth and richness of Gnostic thought. Even if we don't agree with all of their ideas, there's so much to learn from their quest for meaning, their exploration of consciousness, and their yearning for liberation.
They remind us that the search for truth is an ongoing journey, a process of continuous exploration and discovery.
Precisely. And finally, I think the Nag Hammadi Library serves as a powerful reminder of the resilience of ideas. These texts, buried for centuries and labeled as heretical, have reemerged to challenge our understanding of history and inspire new generations of seekers.
It's a testament to the power of knowledge and the enduring human quest for meaning.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, listeners, this deep dive has been a whirlwind of fascinating concepts, intriguing figures, and thought-provoking insights. We hope you've enjoyed the journey as much as we have. And a huge thank you again to Iceni for suggesting this topic.
Absolutely.
Be sure to check out the links in the description for more resources on the Nag Hammadi Library. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with your friends. Your support helps us bring these fascinating topics to a wider audience.
Yes, spread the knowledge.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking.